thank you so much for coming back to another episode where we're spotlighting different TEDx speakers, different authors, speakers, business owners. So today I'm super excited to have my guest Sarah with us today. Sarah and I shared the TEDx Cherry Creek HS stage not too long ago. So I'm super excited for her to come on, talk a little bit about her topic and her experience and all those really great things about becoming a TEDx speaker. So Sarah, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Honestly, I'm so excited. So, yeah.
That's great to hear. Well, why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about like what inspired you to even apply for the stage?
So I think it is because it's TEDx Cherry Creek High School, and I happened to go to Cherry Creek High School. So I did kind of find out about it through Michael, who is the main organizer, and then he also put something in the school newspaper. So I was just like, okay, maybe I should try this out. It sounds pretty cool. So that's kind of how I found out about it, and then I decided to apply. So
Awesome. Do you want to share a little bit about like your idea that you applied with?
yeah, so originally, I applied with an idea. It was like something along the lines of like energy zapping tasks. And I feel like my current topic is pretty similar to that, but I feel like it has branched out a little bit. But essentially, kind of what I applied with was that there are some tasks that just make us like it drains all of our energy. And I found that like really interesting because these tasks are pretty small. So I don't know why. Like I'm just like so exhausted and I always put them off. And it just like it really like clogs up my brain. So I was like, oh, maybe this is like kind of like a real problem. And because I found that like I was so overwhelmed, and then I realized when I actually broke down my tasks that I had to do, I was like, wait, all of these could be done in like 5 minutes. So, yeah, so I saw that that was kind of a problem, and kind of so that's why I decided to kind of apply it as, and I thought that it could also kind of, align with the digital age theme in that, I think as we get more and more into like digital technology and that becomes more immersive in our lives, it's really more so like I think it requires us to have a lot more flexibility. We're kind of expected to be available a lot more times, which does require kind of a new way of thinking and a new way of doing things. So, um,
Definitely.
yeah.
That's really cool. And so for anyone who doesn't know, and we'll talk about a little bit about this in a second, but we all submitted with our ideas, right? Our big ideas, what it's called with TEDx. But we all went through some training and some coaching, and we had an amazing speaker coach come in and really refine our idea, right? Like we have this big idea, and it was really her job to like get it down to like that the morsel of the idea, like really get to the root cause to easily explain it to an audience. Because we have this in our head, we've been thinking about this for a while, but when you give it to a new audience, they're like, "This is so much information. We don't know what to do with it." So that's what Sarah's talking about a little bit about, like changing her topic just a little bit. And I'll definitely make sure I have her talk linked around, so you guys should definitely go check it out. It's an amazing. What is it, like 6.5 minutes, 7-ish
Um,
minutes?
yeah, it's like 6-ish minutes.
Yeah, 6-ish minutes. Definitely worth your time. Nice, short and sweet, and awesome. So, how did it feel when you got the acceptance? Like, were you expecting an acceptance? Because it's kind of like your school. You're like, I should definitely get it. I know Michael or anything like that. Like, what were your thoughts?
I was surprised. I was very happy, honestly. I was like, it's like an amazing experience. So, I didn't really know exactly what the acceptance rate would be like. I didn't kind of have any real expectations of how many people would even apply. Because I didn't feel like a ton of Cherry Creek High School kids applied, even with the newsletter. So I wasn't too sure about that. But like when I got that email, I was very excited. I was like, oh wait, this is actually happening. So
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know the statistics specifically for Cherry Creek
yeah.
HS, but I do know that the average speaker, I think, applies what 84 times to different TEDx stages. And Sarah got it in her first one. So there you go. Huge round of applause for you. So now you're accepted, and now we all get this packet that we have to go on so many speaker trainings. I think it was like six or so. So how was that whole experience? I think we had about 2.5, almost 3-ish months to prepare. What were your kind of thought process? How were you feeling? And what were you kind of expecting to do?
Yeah, so I think the process is it was like a little bit different than what I was expecting initially. I honestly thought that it was just gonna be like they were going to kind of tell us we got accepted and then we'd have to be on our own and write the speeches and then just show up. So I'm actually kind of pretty glad that we did have like the opportunity to, work with a speaker coach and that sort of thing because I think she really like honestly like she kept us like I would say like with the deadlines and everything, it made sure that we were on track. So I think that was very helpful. And like as you said, she really did help us like whittle our ideas down to like the kind of core and the most important things of your talk. So I think that also kind of made my speech a lot more kind of understandable, I think. So I think that
Mhm.
was helpful. It also made me like my speech a lot more. So I think it was really useful in that it provided a lot of direction. So I
Mhm.
think that was very helpful. And I think it's also kind of cool to see everybody else's speeches kind of like develop and progress through like all the Zoom meetings and everything because we kind of talk in front of each other and it was pretty cool. So I really enjoyed the process, honestly. It was
Yeah. Definitely. And I know you mentioned deadlines were, kind of helpful for us to stay on track. And it was so helpful for me, because otherwise I'm definitely the type to put things off until the very last minute. And I was like, well, I have to take this seriously. And those deadlines made sure I was taking it very seriously, which I'm super grateful for. And I think all of her feedback was super helpful. Like there was never any time she commented on something where I was like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Like she doesn't get my idea enough. You know what I mean? I was just like, you know what, this makes sense. I can see what she's talking about. Um, so do you want to share a little bit about the experience of like the day of the event, right? Like there's so much going on. How are you feeling through all of that?
okay. So I mean, at the beginning, I was kind of stressed out to be honest. I was like, oh, it's actually the day of. This is like the big event and all that sort of thing. And I feel like overall, I was a little bit stressed at the beginning. Kind of just because like we also didn't know our order at the beginning. It was like a little bit hectic, but I think like once we started going through kind of the rehearsals and that sort of thing, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see how this is gonna go. And then I also I mean, I know she said not to do this, but I feel like I looked over my speech a couple of times just to make sure that I had like the words like solidified in my head. So I think that helped me feel better. I don't know if that actually improved my memory of those words, but I think, everyone just kind of has their own way of preparing for these types of things. So, but I think everyone really like they handled themselves so well and like the event was a total success. So, it was very
Yeah. I remember the day of, I was feeling mostly fine, but then I was thinking, oh, it's when during our rehearsals and we did the first like 30 seconds of our speech, not too long or anything. And I literally forgot one of the words and I was like, I had never messed up on this word in my life. And I don't even, it was like, I remember what word it was, but I don't really remember if that makes sense. Like I remember where it was. And I was like, "Oh my God." And she told us not to look over our speeches and like I know I could if I wanted to and I could have practiced if I wanted to. But I was like, "You know what? I feel fine." Like I woke up that morning and I listened to my speech like 5 times. And in the car and stuff. So I was like, I'm just listening to it and not really like working too hard. But I just like couldn't remember this one word for the life of me and I read it and then I left the room. I put my phone down when I left the room, and then I came back and I was like, I forgot the word again. It was the craziest thing, the way that like those nerves just take over. Do you want to share a little bit? I mean, you shared a little bit about the topic that you did submit, but why don't you share a little bit about like the speech that you ended up giving, and what did you really love about that?
Yeah, of course. So, I ended up giving a speech kind of on the importance of prioritizing smaller tasks, which is kind of pretty similar to what I had originally submitted. And I think I focused more on, I think, a lot more mindset things than what I had initially planned on submitting. But I think that was also kind of with the format of the speech. I felt like it fit better. I also felt like it was just more applicable to like me and probably the general audience as well. Yeah, so I was kind of talking about how like these small tasks, um, I feel like with small tasks, it's that like the more you put them off, the more the stress around them kind of rises because um like I think like in your mind there's like kind of like a mental to-do list of the things that you have to do. So if you aren't able to like get those out or get those done or at least write them down somewhere, then you kind of like have like this like a little subconscious like thing, and if you don't get stuff done, it just starts to pile up. And I feel like that ends up, kind of really like fogging up your brain. You're like, wait, should I do this first? And then should I do that? And then it just kind of causes like a lack of direction, which makes us feel even less productive and kind of not willing to even do more things, right? So
Mhm.
that was essentially what my talk talked about, and kind of like the impact and importance of prioritizing these small tasks so that we can actually become kind of a more productive individual overall, and also, save our mental sanity and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I don't know about you, but sometimes I put off those like small tasks. Like for example, like you get your clothes from the laundry, and you're like, okay, I'll put them away later. And then like 3 hours, not 3 days, like 3 days, weeks, years later, they're still clothes like on your bed or something. And I'll like go to bed stressed. I'm like, I should just do this in the morning, and then the morning comes, and then I forget. So I think that's a great one of those small examples of just tackling it as soon as possible. Otherwise, there's just clothes everywhere in your room and you don't want that.
yeah, and I feel like, as time goes on, like your motivation to actually do the task decreases, and you kind of like somewhat forget about it, but then you don't forget about it entirely. So then your brain is just like it's confused. So
Definitely. Well, our talk was posted earlier this week, both of our talks, which was, I'm sure, a surprise for all of us because we were told it wasn't going to be uploaded for, at least a month or so. So, what were
yeah.
your thoughts when it was like finally uploaded and released to the world and you could share it with all your friends and family?
Ooh, so I mean, you were actually the one that told me that uploaded. I was so surprised. Like as you said, I wasn't expecting it to be uploaded for like a couple months, because they told us, sometimes these things are unpredictable. We don't know how long they're gonna take to upload it. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, they're uploaded already. Yeah, so I was very surprised. Um Me personally, I have not watched mine yet. I've watched parts of it. There's something about seeing yourself on film that I'm just like, oh, okay. But it's really exciting to know that we can share it now. And I think I've sent it out to a couple people yet, but I haven't done a whole marketing or plan or anything yet. So that's something that I will be working on as well. So
Definitely. Yeah, it was so funny when I was told, and then I was like, I feel like no one else knows because I didn't know for like 8
yeah.
or 9 hours or something. I'm like, I have to tell everyone who's been posted because they posted us in batches. So like a few of us
Mm.
were posted one day and the rest were posted another day. But it was just like a crazy thing to see. I was so, so excited. And I haven't watched myself either. Some at random times my dad would pull up my talk just to check like the views or the likes or something or the engagement. And, like, I would hear the voice, like, autoplay, and I literally would just start screaming until he, like when I don't mean screaming, like, screaming in his face, I'd just be like, "La," so he
Yeah.
would know to turn it off because 'cause I'm like, "I can't do that." I listened to myself for an entire week to memorize it, and we're done after that, you know what I mean?
100%. I don't know about the sound of your own voice. It's just like, oh, okay. Because it just sounds so different from like what you hear like in your own head. So
Yeah, 1000%. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a
oh,
little bit about your experience. This is one of those, once in a lifetime kind of experiences and achievements. So huge congrats. You had an amazing talk. I watched it in person and I watched your video. Again, I'll link her video in the description and everything like that. So you can definitely check that out. It's a great one. So, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
thank you for inviting me. Honestly, this has been so incredible. So
Of course.
as well. So
Of course.
it's incredible. I watched it in person and also on the video. So
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I appreciate everyone. We had a really great group, a lot of support. And it felt really kind and really loving. So I'm super honored.
so supportive, everyone.
Definitely. Well, thank you again, Sarah, for coming on. And to everyone watching, I really appreciate you as well. And I will see you next time. Bye.